All right, Leonidas here, and in this collection of tutorials, we're going to cover the bidding strategies within Google Ads. Firstly, we're going to start with the maximize conversions bidding strategy. This is the main strategy that I recommend you use all the time. In this tutorial, we're going to explain why. So we're going to cover what is the maximize conversions bidding strategy. Then we're going to go ahead and cover maximize conversions with a target cost per acquisition, a TCPA, and the pros and cons of using max conversions. And then from there, we're going to go into my personal experiences with this particular bidding strategy within Google Ads. And then finally, a campaign setup. So how to implement this strategy, as well as account examples from my personal experiences of running max conversions over the last X amount of years. So firstly, what is the max conversions bidding strategy? When you enable this strategy, you're telling Google to focus only on the keywords that have converted historically within the Google Ads system. Google has all of the information available within their data. They've had the same search queries enter their system into Google, YouTube, whatever platform, millions of times. So they know which keywords have converted in the past. So you're telling Google to only target those keywords as much as possible. Google has the data on which keywords convert. Not only that, but they know which point in the funnel the person is in when they're looking for those particular products that they're searching for. Based on the person's search history, Google also controls Chrome. They control the search engine within Safari on Apple. They control Firefox, and then other search providers, other browsers also provide the history to Google. So Google knows which stage in the funnel the person is based on their search history, as well as their browsing history. Now, the browsing history could be relevant to the types of websites that they're visiting and what they might be looking at, for example, on YouTube. To give you an example, pest control, if the person is simply typing pest control, they might not be the top converting individual for what your ads should be showing on. But if they're writing pest control into Google, as well as they've looked at other websites related to pest control, as well as they maybe gone on Amazon for products related to pest control, or natural solutions or treatments related to pest control, then Google puts them into the highest probability of converting. And this is who you're going to target with the max conversions bidding strategy. So based on all of this information, Google knows the level of intent of the customer and whether they will convert. And ultimately, based on this, Google will set the bid they think is most appropriate for getting that customer to outcompete your competition. So then what is the max conversions with TCPA? The CPA in TCPA stands for cost per acquisition. So this is your cost for getting a conversion. It may cost you $10 for a conversion. It may cost you $20 for a conversion. It may cost you $30 for a conversion, whether that's someone to stay on the phone for 2-3 minutes, whether it's for them to purchase a product on your website. It might cost you $30 for that as well. Whether it's for them to fill out a form on your website, it might cost you $10, $20, or $30. But let's say, for example, it costs you $40 for every conversion that happens on your website. This is perhaps too expensive for you. So in that case, you set a target cost per acquisition. This is how much you're willing to pay. After all the clicks on your ads, it ultimately costs you $40, and you don't want to pay $40 per conversion. You only want to pay $20 per conversion. So Google is going to lower your cost per click, to hit that $20 per conversion mark, your target cost per acquisition. Now, the pros of using max conversions without a target cost per acquisition is that you are targeting the customers who are the most likely to convert. You're not setting a limit on how much you're willing to bid. You just want the customers that convert. This is fantastic if you have no limits to budget, probably more towards medium upper or high income companies, large businesses that have no limitations on how much they're willing to pay. They don't mind paying, maybe $100, $200, $300 for a conversion. These typically are the highest intent customers because they've seen their search queries, they know which keywords convert, and they're going exactly for the customer that is most likely to convert for you. A great way to test this strategy is simply to test on low budgets. I'm going to show you how to do that later. You're basically telling Google, go out there into the wild, find me conversions, but still at the same time, limit your budget. So I'll explain that a little bit later. What are the cons of maximize conversions without a target cost per acquisition is that you will easily blow through your budget, right? In my personal experience, I've seen clicks go from $20. I've had clicks for $80 just for a single click, right? And these clicks, while they are high intent, don't necessarily mean conversions, right? So in this case, for example, you can see I paid $31 for this click, and they probably were a high converting individual. But when they landed on my website, it was my landing page that didn't sell them on the proposition. Or when they got on the phone, somewhere down the line through the phone process, whether it's on my end, whether it's on the company's end, the company wasn't able to convert them, and I simply didn't get paid. But I still ultimately had to pay $23 a click, $30 a click, $80 a click even. While the conversion rates are high, it doesn't guarantee a conversion. So keep that in mind. Now, the pros of the max conversions with a target cost per acquisition is that once Google collects enough data about your conversions, they start to understand which stage in the funnel is best to show the customer your ads. They know which keywords are the best to show your ads on. They also understand your landing page a little bit better and how the person is navigating through your landing page. Then at that point, Google's able to optimize much better and show your ads at the appropriate time for the customer. It limits the upside of how much you're going to ultimately pay for clicks. So instead of paying $30, $40, $50 a click, now you're telling Google, I don't want to pay $40 a click, $50 a click. I want to set my target cost per acquisition to $20 and below. At that point, Google starts to target clicks that are maybe within the $2, $3, $4, $5 range. Now, keeping in mind though, that even if you set your target cost per acquisition, your TCPA to $20, you can still get a $20 click, right? Google has no problem spending that. If they think that person is a high converting individual and they think you're able to outcompete your competition, then they will show your ad to that click that will ultimately charge you $20 or even $35. So keeping in mind that you're not setting your bid limit per click, but you are setting how much you're willing to pay for that conversion. You might still pay $30 a click and that click might still not convert. Keep that in mind as well. If you set boundaries on how much you're willing to pay for the traffic, eventually, if there's not enough pattern recognition within Google, if Google doesn't find a pattern in what kind of customers convert for you, the traffic will die off. I've seen some campaigns where they do have conversions, but Google is simply not able to figure out what are the patterns, what are the types of keywords, at what point in the funnel the person is able to convert on my landing pages, simply because there's too many nuanced variables further down the line, and this confused the algorithm in the end. So your traffic and impressions die off as well. It'll be a downward curve either way with a target cost per acquisition. What you have to do is increase your TCPA, like from $35 to $40, from $40 to $50, to give Google a little more room to wiggle around until perhaps one day they figure out the types of customers willing to convert on your site or your service or whatever else. Based on my personal experience, after testing all of the bidding strategies, this is the number one bidding strategy that you should always pretty much focus on. Other than something I'm going to teach you a little bit later, which is slightly more advanced, the max conversions bidding strategy is the strategy you should be using pretty much all the time. Keeping in mind that don't be surprised when you get expensive clicks. This might shock you a little bit later, but I'll show you how to fix that later. And keeping in mind that if there's not enough patterns within the conversions themselves, then your impressions to how many people your ads will show to can actually die off in the end. So Google will show your ads to less and less and less people because they don't understand who is the person that will convert best for your keywords and who you're targeting. So let's go into the technicals of how to implement this strategy within Google Ads. I'm going to show you how to create the data columns, and I'm going to show you data from my own personal accounts in regards to the maximize conversions bidding strategy. So let's go ahead and begin. All right, so let's go ahead and do a speed run of how to set up our conversion tracking with maximize conversions. We're going to create a campaign here.